Thanks for joining today's Yardi Energy session. I'm Ryan Becker. I'm an account manager with the Yardi Energy team based out of Vancouver, and been with the organization for about 5 years. And I work with our Yardi clients developing an effective energy strategy. Today's session, I'm joined with Brent Bowker.
Yeah, I'm Brent Bowker. I'm a solutions consultant here at Yardi. So I work with our Yardi clients, mostly looking at our energy solutions, giving demos, providing technical expertise where needed.
Excellent. So today we're going to spend the next 30 minutes learning a little bit more about Yardi Energy and also exploring some of the software tools that we provide our clients to help them achieve their energy efficiency goals. So about Yardi Energy, a lot of folks think of Yardi first and foremost, of course, as property and accounting software, which of course is true, but we are also heavily invested in the energy market. Currently, we have about 25 software developers, actually based at our Vancouver and Saskatoon office, working on our Pulse platform, which we'll look at in a moment, constantly adding new features and reports to the software. We actually process over 150,000 utility invoices on a monthly basis. We've got 500 employees supporting our energy clients and are effectively managing 7,000 properties across North America in energy initiatives. So really a lot going on with the energy platform. So let's look a little bit more about some of the tools that we offer. So when we're talking to our clients about an effective energy strategy, it really does start with the utility invoice. Utility invoices can be complex. They certainly can have errors, but they're full of rich energy data. And so we take over the processing of utility invoices for our clients. And so we set up an automated feed with utilities where we're going to receive those invoices and we're going to audit them looking for errors on the bill. There's often going to be errors on the bill and we're going to run them through our process and resolve those issues with the utility if needed. We're also going to create the payables in the back end. So for Voyager or other ERP systems, we're going to do coding and put them to the right GL and make sure that the accounting staff are happy. What we're also going to do is actually extract all that energy data from the bill. So we pull all the line item details from the bills and we surface that data in Yardi Pulse. And Yardi Pulse really allows you to normalize data for weather and do effective benchmarking for your property so you can find opportunities for energy savings. The next step in the process really is looking at external benchmarking. So we do a lot of work with Energy Star. We have a two-way API with Portfolio Manager. So we are processing Energy Star for our customers and giving them updated scores on a monthly basis. With this, we do a lot of EWRB compliance for our Ontario clients, making sure that we can handle their Energy Star scores and make sure that everything's good with the compliance for EWRB. Yardi is also a GRESB partner, and so we certainly see a big push right now, especially amongst the REITs, doing that next level of sustainability reporting, and so we do a lot of energy reporting for our GRESB customers as well. Another service we do offer is utility billing. And so utility billing is when our clients want to pass through those energy costs onto their tenants. And so we'll actually meter at the tenant level, often for electricity and water, and charge tenants for their energy consumption and bill them. We do a lot of work for this, certainly in the multifamily arena in Ontario, BC, Alberta, and a bit in the Maritimes. And then we also do that for commercial properties across Canada as well. Moving on from the utility bill, the next level really is getting into accessing your data in real time. And so having visibility into how your portfolio is performing is really important. And so with Meter Insights, we're actually going to tap into that smart meter data or install checked meters on site. And so you can see when your building is turning on. You can actually see when you perhaps have energy spikes and off hours or things happening on the weekends. So your team can respond to alerts that the system sends out. And so you can proactively manage those energy consumption abnormalities to help reduce your energy costs. This has also been really important in COVID, so you can understand that your properties, especially on the commercial side, hopefully are operating at base load levels if they're not at full occupancy. And so this gives you great visibility into how your buildings are performing. The next layer of integration really is tapping into a building automation system. And so we call this fault detection. And so we're going to read a number of points from your BAS, and we're going to monitor the health of a lot of the equipment that's operating at the property level. And so we're going to look at things like air handler units, for example, and send alerts when an air handler unit is not operating correctly. We're also going to provide trend analysis and pull in other data points so your team can effectively understand what's going on at the property and avoid some of those high energy spikes. All this happens within Yardi Pulse, our ecosystem, and allows our customers to really effectively manage their energy consumption. So now let's look a little closer at Yardi Pulse.
Awesome. Thanks, Ryan. So we're going to hop into the software now and show you Yardi Pulse. As Ryan mentioned, it is in the Elevate suite. And so a lot of other Yardi products are being built there, whether it's Asset IQ, Maintenance IQ, Procure to Pay. All of our newer products we're building in this Elevate suite. So it's easy for new staff to learn. If they're familiar with other Yardi products, it's in the same look and feel. We just have a lot more green in the Yardi Pulse version. We'll start with invoice processing. We'll show you the dashboard here, and then we'll go look at the other products as well. So meter insights and fault detection, as Ryan mentioned. All your utility bill data, all the data we've gathered off your bill is going to go here. There's a lot of back-end processes that do happen in Voyager, which we're not going to show today, but all the accounts payable, the payables processing, all that's going to happen in Voyager, which is also where we can provide a lot of benefit. We're going to show you the output of the energy data as part of our demo. So looking at electric right now, we can switch to other utilities. So if you want to look at gas or water, you simply change and the data will change to reflect that. All your property lists, all your property attributes from Voyager, if you are a Voyager customer, will come over here. And so if you want to search particular properties, you can do that. If you want to summarize it by, let's say, region or property manager or ownership group, you can do that using the summarize by, and that's going to take all the tags, those attributes you've set up over in Voyager and bring them here into Pulse. I've already got some save filters. If you find there's particular things you look for a lot, just save a filter, you come back and the data will be there ready for you. Going down here, we can do some normalizations. So right now we're looking at the totals. You want to normalize per square foot. You click on that tile and the data below will change to be per square foot. We have consumption, we have cost. A lot of times they'll follow similar trends, but other times you'll see costs go up. Maybe if you have time of use rates in the summer, large demand spikes, things like that, you're going to see changes between cost and consumption or demand charts, which I'll show you here in a minute. We do weather normalization as well. And so for all of your properties, we're going to create a regression which looks at how the building responds to weather. And so you can use that to determine if weather is driving consumption changes in the buildings, or whether there's something else that you need to investigate that might be changing how the building is operating. Right now, we're looking across 9 properties here, so it's averaged out. But if you look at a particular property, you might see more variation month to month there. There's a few different tabs here we'll go to first. And so right now we're looking at consumption. We went through that. If you have demand in your buildings, so we got commercial portfolio, you're probably going to have demand charges. You can look similarly at the demand charges, actual amounts, as well as the charges, the costs here below. If you're doing utility billing through Yardi, so that's another service we offer both for commercial and residential, where we bill back your residents or your tenants. You can see the information like recovery. So if you want to track recovery, look at your expenses against what you're billing back to the residents or the tenants, you can see that information here on the utility billing dashboard. Recovery rates will show here, looking year over year. And then if you have any meter issues, we also look at your sub-meter health in the charts below. Actionable items are alerts you can control on your side. So our team is going to take on a lot of the work. We're going to be looking for exceptions. We're going to call up utilities if we think there's an issue with your invoicing, but there might be things you want to look at on your own. So maybe you want to have thresholds. If you're over a certain consumption amount, you can have thresholds for that. And the nice thing here is we do tie back to other Yardi products. And so if you wanted to manage it here in the tool, a high consumption alert, you want to send somebody out on site, you can assign it. You can track the status, you can add activity, or if you're using one of our other tools like mobile maintenance, or you're using work orders in Voyager, you can create a work order right here in the tool that will create a work order number that you can then go track this, this actionable item over in that tool. So that's a nice tie-in to other Yardi products. To go back to the main dashboard, all this information you can interact with. And so if you want to drill in on a particular property, you can do so. I'm going to pick one of Yardi's properties because I want to show how we can connect from utility expense management over to meter insights. And so I click on one of these properties. I clicked on 490 Fairview. What this is going to do is it's going to go from the building level. And so right now we're summarizing by building, and it's going to take us down a level and show us by meters. And so when we do that, we can see any variations in the individual meters and see if there's any of them in particular that are causing the spike in consumption or whatever we're looking at in that chart. So now we can see about 5 different meters here. We can turn them on and off. You can interact with the charts if you want to see particular meters, or you can choose the one that's of interest. We'll click on this high one. And this will take us to the IRs. So IR stands for invoice register. That's Yardi speak for kind of pay scan language. And we do use pay scan here when we process bills. So now I can see the bill. So this is the actual bill where the data came from. So we could go through, we can look at the individual pages of the bill if you want. This is what we scan through. And so our team, whether we're getting a digital transmission of the bill, or we're scanning the bill, you're always going to have a copy of the invoice attached to the IR or the payable in PayScan or in Pulse or wherever you're viewing the invoice in the Yardi ecosystem. Any exceptions that our team found on the bill are going to be viewable here. And so if we investigate something we call the utility company, you'll see resolution notes on that screen. If you want to see the raw details, so all the line items we've scrubbed off that bill, you can go have a look at that. And that's just an easier way perhaps than digesting the information, looking at the utility bill invoice like we saw on this page. I'm going to come back and show you some reports for invoice processing, but I want to show you right now the link to Meter Insights. And so if a property has both invoice processing and it has Meter Insights, that's the real-time meter connection, you'll see a link. So you'll see a blue link here to real-time metering, and we can click that and it'll take us over there. And so when we do that, it takes us over to Meter Insights. And so we're now in the Meter Insights product, and it's going to take us to the billing period that we were looking at. And so it's going to show us the real-time data for that billing period that we saw over on that last screen. And so we can see that peak demand. We can see when it happened. It's also going to show us here below when that happened. And we can choose to look at it. So we can look at this month, see what's happening around the time of the spike. We can zoom in, do lots of other analysis here in this tool. I'm going to show some of the other features of Meter Insights, but I just want to show you that connection for the specific property. And so let's kind of go back out and look at the portfolio for Meter Insights. And we'll come back and show reporting for everything at the end. So let's go get the full portfolio. So right now I zoomed into that one property. Let's get every property we have here. Okay, so now we're looking at the entire portfolio for Meter Insights. And so we can see all of our properties that have the interval data on the site. So we have 5 here in our demo portfolio, some of those Yardi buildings, some other buildings as well. This dashboard is specific to Meter Insights. And so we're going to see information around peak demand. We're going to see information around savings and alerts. And so these are all features of Meter Insights that we have that we can look into. And so you could drill into a particular property here. Maybe you wanted to go look at a certain property. You can do that. Maybe you see a particular peak demand value that's interesting you. Maybe you see it's up or it's down at a certain amount. This one's up. Maybe you want to go look at it. You can click on these and they will link you to that demand chart for that specific property. Right now, we're going to stay at the portfolio level. We can go to demand. We can see what our portfolio demand is here. It's going to aggregate by default, but we can disaggregate it. So if we want to see all the individual properties, we can do that and see them all. We can see the baseline data as well as the actual. And so I skipped over that before, but you can see the dashed line here. This is just a more advanced baseline model than we have in our invoice processing. And so this will create a regression for each hour of the week. And so it's going to create regressions and it's going to use that to project forward. And you just get a nice load shape where you can see that baseline throughout the day versus a monthly level baseline you would have over in invoice processing. Some interesting things you can do here. So you can obviously see all the peak demand data like we saw before for each of the properties. If there's multiple meters, you're going to see that down here below. So you'd see if there was multiple meters, like 6 meters here at 516 Wellman, which would allow you to determine if there's sub-metering. So if you drilled in, you could then drill down to the property and then you can drill down and look at the sub-meters for that property if you wanted to. We can run heat maps here, which is a nice way to visualize the data. And so by default, it's just going to show us the raw demand levels, which is going to show darker blue here for the larger buildings. If you want to see it compared to baseline, You can do that. And so it's going to be that relative option there. And here you'd be looking for the red. And so these would be the periods when you're operating very high compared to that baseline amount. And so that'd be where you might want to go investigate and figure out why you're operating outside of the bounds, and allows you to focus on where you should be investigating here in the tool. All the data you can get out, and so you can export the data. You can also add notes. And so maybe there's a particular event you want to make note of in here. Maybe it's a retrofit, maybe a lighting change, maybe some other change you made in your building with the HVAC system. You can use the notes tool here, and that will record it in the section. And you'd also see those notes in any reports you run on the tool. Consumption is going to be bar charts. And so right now you're going to see savings. So it's a lot geared around savings. You're going to see the actual compared to the baseline, and then see your consumption, your cumulative savings over time. Alerts are a core function over here in Meter Insights. And so if you want to see particular peak demand threshold, if you want to be alerted when maybe your base load in the evenings is creeping up, this would be where you'd start to do that sort of thing. And so we'll go into a particular property here and look at some of the alert definitions and the things that you can set in a property. And so now I'm down to a specific property here. I can see the alerts that happen for this property. If I want to go through the definitions, I'm going to go here. So a few things you control if you want to see an alert when you go over a certain demand threshold. So maybe that's when you might be going into a new tariff category, or you're exceeding the capacity of the building. There's ways you can set that there. You can also be alerted when you're expected to hit high monthly usage. And so if you've gone over by a certain amount, you can be alerted to that. Same thing with weekly, and also with off hours. We run an algorithm over your data. We look when you operate, when your building is not being operated, when it's on, when it's off, and we will alert you if you're outside a certain percentage bounds of that. So if you're creeping up using more and more. Demand exceeded threshold will give you some percentage bases, and also we'll do some forecasting. And so you can do some forecasting of whether you're expected to exceed a certain threshold in the one up there. This one's when if it actually happened, you can be alerted if you go over a certain percentage compared to a previous period. So maybe you want to compare to the previous month or the same time last year, previous year, a lot of control there just to see if your consumption patterns are changing and keep yourself in check. All right, so we're going to look at fault detection here in a moment. But before I do that, I do want to go over some reports for both invoice processing and also for Meter Insights. So there's lots of reports in here. Obviously, we can look at. We're going to highlight a few reports here. The benchmarking report is one that we find a lot of folks run. So it's just a way to expand what we had there on the main page and give you some more benchmarking data to compare your buildings. And so I just picked some pre-saved filters like we did in the dashboard. You can go through, you can pick specific properties, certain commodities you want to look at, and then they will load here with the benchmarking data. This is going to pull in data from Voyager, so your tenancy information, your occupancy data, and compare that below. At the top, you're going to get information on cost per square foot, cost per unit, total property cost. And then if you go below, you'll see cost per occupant, like I was saying, usage per occupant, some more finely grained metrics for your properties that you can compare on. And so it's a nice tool to compare multiple properties. A lot of other reports around consumption. I like to run the trend report. Let's go run that one. A nice report you can run showing if your building's up, are you down, and gives you a nice percentage. So very helpful for reporting purposes. So again, I'm just going to pick some canned filters. You can see this is for multiple properties. It brings in the year-over-year data, it brings over the weather normalized data, tell us what our total spend was, what our total usage, and then that percentage up or down for our portfolio or for whatever buildings you select to run the report on. You can get more insight into the weather normalization if you like. So if you want to see what that regression formula is, that's really for the sustainability driven folks out there, the energy manager type individuals. You can run information on Energy Star. And so Ryan talked about our benchmarking services that we offer. We do have a two-way API with Energy Star. And so not only do we send the data to Energy Star on a regular basis, but they also feed us back the score as well as the site EUI data that's important for your Energy Star score. And so you can see that data here. You can log into Energy Star Portfolio Manager as well, but all the data is here for you to see. There's other reports there in the sustainability section for greenhouse gases. There's the GRESB report if you need to do any reporting there. There's also budget reporting. And so if you want to run variance reporting, if you want more information around that for your energy data, you can grab that here in Pulse. If you need to get out any of the data, you can do it. So if you need to export invoice data, all the raw data we're collecting, maybe you have consultants working for you that need to do their own work, you can get that data out. You own it. It's in your Voyager system. We don't own that data. It's there for you. You can also download the invoice images as well. We have the accrual report. And so let's run perhaps another report here rather than just talking about them. We'll run an accrual report. And so we can run this for you. You can subscribe to it. You can have it emailed to you if you like, but we will give you an accrual for the remaining month. And we'll do this by meter. And then you can then plug that into your monthly accruals when you're doing that accounting exercise for all your properties. And so if I scrolled over, it gives you some of the math behind what we're doing, gives you all the dates you need, gives you the accrual times, and then we'll give you that accrual amount over here that you can then plug into your accruals. I'll show that's kind of a quick run through of the reports for invoice processing. I'll show one for real-time metering for Meter Insights here and show you what the savings report looks like. There's a few other ones there as well. So we'll look at the savings for one of our Yardi properties. We're comparing to baseline. We're going to look at this entire year. Just nicely summarizes the savings for your property. What is it? And then shows you the trend for the property. And you can export this data as well. So you can get this out and use it for any reporting you might need to do report on hopefully some nice energy conservation projects in your buildings. This is a nice one to summarize that for you. Okay, that's good for faults. So I'll hop back now to fault detection, and we'll quickly show that. So fault detection, again, same kind of dashboard. Let's get all of our buildings here. Similar dashboard to what we have for the other products. Should be a similar look and feel. We're going to get some high-level information about what's going on in our property, what faults are going on, how severe are they, what types of faults are they. And you can drill into specific properties to look at the faults there. And so maybe we want to look at the high severity faults for 1003 Yardi. We can click on that here. And this will show us the list of faults that are occurring. From here, you can drill in, we can see some trends. And so maybe you want to drill into a particular one here. Let's go look at this one related to condenser water temperature. You click on this, it's going to bring you up a trend view with some of the points. So this is where we're connected to your building automation system. We're going to look at all of your points. We're not going to write anything to your automation system, but we're going to read it and look at a certain set of rules, parameters, and see if there's any issues going on there. And you can control that. And I'll show you that in a moment in the fault definitions. So we can see the highlighted red portions are when this fault is occurring. So when it's not tracking the set point that we're asking. And so there's some reason why the building's not responding. And you can get the points here that we think should help you diagnose the issue or could get you started. But you can always go into trends and create your own charts, add in new points, bring in additional points that you might need to help you determine what the issue is with this particular component within your building. So it's going to give us a similar chart we saw there before. But you can go edit it. You can bring in, maybe you want to bring in some plant points, what's going on with the chiller. You can add points to your heart's content and make yourself a nice busy chart. You could do that and you click OK, and it's going to bring some points over here. Let's go back and look at faults. We'll look at fault definitions for this property. And so we have a library of faults. So we don't require you to do any coding. There's a library of faults that you can choose from that you can enable or disable, you can modify, that are here for you to access. And so let's go look at one, maybe supplier fan speed cycling. It's going to show us all of our air handler units over here. And so we can edit one in particular. We can select all. We can select a few of them. We could set something for all of them, then come back and tweak a couple of them. But you'd go over here. You can override the defaults. So maybe if you want to change the parameters of the fault, you can do that over here. Maybe you want to change the startup duration period. Maybe 30 minutes doesn't make sense. Change 60 minutes. And then you could modify those faults. You can do some custom faults as well within our tool. So again, we don't require you to do any coding, but you can create some faults here within the logic-based system here and create some conditions within the tool that might help you diagnose some additional issues that maybe aren't in our default fault library. Okay, and that is what I wanted to show you here today. I'll pass it back to Ryan to close things off. Thank you for the walkthrough through Pulse here, for joining us.
Well, thanks, Brent, and appreciate everyone's time today. Hopefully you learned a little bit more about the Pulse solution. Certainly feel free to reach out if you have further questions. And yeah, please join us in the networking session now. Be great to connect and certainly answer any questions that you have. Brent and I will both be there and look forward to connecting. Thanks again.